Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast, a podcasting community by estate professionals for estate professionals, where we share the ideas and the access to people that help you work less, earn more, and do good in your community. If you get value in this free content, be sure to check out estateprofessionalsmastermind.com, where you can get live classes, access to weekly coaching, and free courses. To learn more, you can visit estateprofessionalsmastermind.com. Let's jump into this week's episode. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Investor Group Coaching Call. David had something come up today, so he wasn't able to be here. So I'll finally host another one of my own calls. And I didn't really have an agenda prepared. Anybody have anything on your mind, like deals you're working on, anything you need help with? Has anybody here because you haven't started investing and you need a kick in the ass? I mean, some encouragement.
This
Pat,
guy,
what have you been into? What kind of deals you doing,
he
man?
just said I need a kick in the ass, so go for it. I want to invest.
What kind of deals you been doing?
Just resi and commercial. So a lot of multi-unit. But I'm repping clients. I'm trying to get in the game, whether it's I partnered up with a contractor who wants to start looking for land to start building stuff. And he says, look, you can come in on the project, but I mean, they're big projects. So as far as acquisition, like land that we're looking at is like $3-4 million. So, I mean, not there yet at the moment.
What asset class is he looking at? What's he?
SFR, we're in like a really nice area in Los Angeles called Brentwood. So it's nice, but I don't know. I'm trying to get in on all sectors realistically, because I think you can. I don't necessarily want to stick to high end. I'm cool with even starting to learn the development side on, like the entry level.
I'll tell you where I think a big opportunity is, Fed. If you want, I mean, you're in a good capital raising market. There's a lot of capital there, and smart money doesn't know where to go right now.
Yeah.
What if you look at one of the largest home builders, you probably know D.R. Horton, like what Horton and Pulte and those big mega builders, what they're doing is they're actually financing. So they're selling the homes with 3% financing in place. And you could even do a development model where you carry a 3% note for 10 years, which is going to help it's going to prop your prices up and your underwriting versus being subject to lenders and tightening lending standards. So if you have savvy investors that are well capitalized, go find a piece of land and just use the D.R. Horton model, build the houses, finance the houses, and then have a 10-year balloon on them where they have to refinance in a different environment than we're in right now. Okay. But I think that's a really clever way to make the market move. Like you just, as the developer, you bank it. Like I mean, who can advertise 3% mortgage rates right now?
Yeah, aside from no one.
Yeah. So that's something that with some of these guys that are thinking big, I don't know that it's happening in LA. It's certainly happening, like where I saw it happening is in East Tennessee. Like the Knoxville market is still, there's a huge influx of people there, and they're kicking ass because they're offering 3% financing. So not so different than what car dealers, and you're starting to see. I think we're about to see 10-year car loans here pretty soon, but I mean, they're back to their 0.99 or 0% APR for 84 months already. And as we continue to tighten and go through this deleveraging, it's just going to get, people are. So anyway, look to some of those industries. Like if you're feeling stuck on that. And how do you feel about your market? Like, are you catching falling knives, or is it?
Not in commercial space? Yes. Single family? No. It also depends on price points. So entry level, still seeing double digit offers. So 10, 12 offers. And then the higher you go, I mean, the 2 to 5 million is kind of seeing a hit. Things are staying on the market for a while, but then the ultra luxury, I mean, there was 6 $50+ million sales in the last 30 days. I think it also had to do with Measure ULA, which is that new tax that they which is an additional tax. So anything up to 9.999 million from 5 million to 9.999 incurred a 4% tax, additional tax. And then anything above 10 million had an additional 5.5% tax. So people just started unloading. I mean, you saw sales where sellers were saying, I'll give $1 million extra commission if we close before April 1st. And they were saying car comes with, pick a Lamborghini or Ferrari, whatever that may be, just to kind of get that sale happen.
And where do those taxes go, into what budget?
I mean, they disguised it as a way to resolve homelessness.
That's exactly what I expected you to say.
That's how they disguised it. But then I think it's going to affect the people on the lower end of the spectrum significantly, because I mean, if all of a sudden you, an owner, or whether you're buying or selling anything, even like multi-unit, then if you have more costs, then you're not going to go on a negative to keep someone's rent low if you don't have to, right? So, I mean, I think it's going to hurt people a lot on the lower end.
So here's where my mind was going for you, like to like follow the money. So if they're now, creating this huge budget and it's for affordable housing, what percentage of that, if any, is being allocated to affordable housing construction? And we know Seattle's a good case study. It doesn't work. Like Seattle spent almost $1 billion to double their homelessness population. It's not effective. The problem isn't housing. The problem is mental health for the most part. And people like to blame drugs, but drugs are just a symptom of what the underlying codependency or whatever is the problem. They're covering up that pain. So I doubt it'll work. So you can figure out if you want to do this or not, but there's probably potential to develop HUD type housing. And they've got the money to pay for it. Like, that's forced capitalization, right? So you may also look at, can we develop these low income properties or affordable housing projects and then sell them over to the city?
Oh, that's smart.
Follow that money and see, because bureaucracy is really inefficient with spending. So if they've got a big slush fund of money to try things, and you can put a good PR story behind it for your investors and say, hey, let's build this affordable housing project for LA. There might be some opportunity in that's being overlooked.
Yeah, definitely didn't think of that. I really like that angle though. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And you can look at, it's been several years ago, a guy did a documentary called Seattle's Dying. It's on YouTube, and it kind of lays out what they did with, building affordable housing and why it didn't work. And he did a really good job with that.
On YouTube. Cool. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Jayhawk, any deals?
I have a couple of, I'm sorry, my wife that's behind me. Hey guys, I have a couple of things going. It's all probate, believe it or not, and it's some lots. I have a listing appointment today for another probate property that actually been in my pipeline for a little bit, and because I was kept up with the daughter. And so she was under the impression that, hey, we're going to just lease mom and dad's house out. Dad's gone. I got mom. And then mom just left recently. She's like, you know what, Jay, I just want to get rid of it. So.
Yep. And you're listing it, not buying it.
I'm listing it. Yes.
Why aren't you buying it?
I don't have the balls yet, I guess. I don't know. I'm a cut to the chase. I have not been that confident yet as in to actually go that route. And that's just being as transparent as possible. Not that I'm not gonna be there one day.
No, that's fine. I tell you what will help you is picking a single sound strategy. Like, do you want to be a long-term hold, like a Burr model, or do you want to do wholesale? I mean, wholesale's where a lot of people start because it's quick in, quick out.
Right.
man, you can, I mean, just like David does, like we just lay out all the prices. That's like, I'll buy it right now for 50 and close in 2 days, or I'll list it for 100. And you just show them, transparently, and say, listen, somebody's got to take a lot of capital risk and a lot of time in a declining market. Would you rather that be me or you? All right, here's the blue pen, and get it under contract, and then just go sell it. You got a buyer's list? You got a good list of investors?
I have a good list of investors.
Okay. So you're ready to try wholesale. And the worst case scenario is you go back with egg on your face and cancel your purchase agreement and hand them a listing agreement and say, you know what? I thought I wanted this one, but I'm actually going to help you find another buyer. And you just cancel your purchase agreement. And while you're there, sign the listing agreement. Like, that's your safety net. You got a license. So
Of course.
you can monetize it either way. So when's your next appointment?
With them after today,
No, we'll say on the next house. Or, I mean, you could, on this one, you could still try. You could go in and say, I talked to my wife and we thought about it. I think we actually would like to be the one to make you the offer. Have you discussed price with them?
No.
Yeah. So this one's still good.
Okay.
Like,
That's
just,
that one.
I mean,
And I have a lot coming up in Malakoff, Texas. That backs up to the lake. So it's a nice sized lot. It's nice. It's been some building that goes on out there. It's been some construction, and it just backs up to Cedar Creek Lake.
is that a recreational lake?
Yes. So across the lake, we have, so on this side of the lake, we see some building. On the other side, you have Tony Romo has a house on the other side, and also Mark Cuban does as well.
Okay. And what if you can get that owner financed? Can you get it? Do they have a lot of liabilities in the estate?
No.
So you carve that out using a monument of title.
Mhm.
You get them like that, quick claims it to the family, and then you get them to owner finance it to you and say, how about you guys, like, I'll give you X now, but over the next 10 years, you could make X plus 6% and get it owner financed to you. And there you got a lot. Then go get to know a builder and say, hey, I'd like to partner with you to build a lake home. How about this? I'll provide the land for X% of the deal. You build the house and we'll split the deal.
It's such a
What do you
beautiful
think?
area out there too. It really is. It is
Yeah.
so beautiful out there.
I'll go do it. Carve it out, monument of title, get it transferred to the family, negotiate owner financing, then go partner with a builder. Your basis in the deal is the lot.
Mhm.
And you're just making small debt service payments on it while he's building the house and taking all the real capital risk. And like, you get part of the deal. Then you're investing. You got two on the table, man. You can list them both. That's the easy game.
Thanks,
So
Chad. I appreciate
the way
that.
let's look at your downside on the second one. The downside on your first one is you go back and hang your head and get a listing signed and say, well, I changed my mind. And that's not too bad. The downside on the lot is the builder doesn't have, he can't get, construction to perm financing is breaking down. Banks are really tightening. And if you can get construction to perm, they're pushing, like my friend, I just had to help a friend capitalize one in Florida a couple of days ago. They pushed him to 15%, like just a regular bank. But because they're having their own liquidity crisis. But so that's your biggest risk is the builder wouldn't be able to get capitalized to do the deal, or the market would break down. Well, in that case, if you find a builder who already has strong cash reserves, doesn't matter. You can owner finance it. You can do what I was just saying to Fed. You can offer, you develop it and then say, hey, we're going to do this one as a build to sell, but we're going to do it as a long-term deal. So I'll provide the land and make those debt service payments. We'll build the house. We'll sell the house with 3% financing, but you're going to have a spread in there from your cost to your price. And then your part of the deal will cover the, your land payments will be covered. So anyways, you can do it that way, like find a builder who's willing to play the long game. It's not just running off cheap bank debt. So that one's de-risked if you do it that way. Now what's keeping you from it?
Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Come on. Lay down.
Roger, all right. Okay. Steve, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Chad. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. We were just we're getting everybody into investing on this call. What are you buying this month? I don't know if David told you guys, it's private. I didn't tell him that I would keep it a secret, but he called me 2 Friday nights ago. I had like 20 people here and was hosting dinner, and he was all excited. He had his first $200,000 month just doing probate deals. Did he tell you guys that? Maybe I'll let the cat out of the bag. But $200,000 in March. Like,
Whoa, wait a
And
minute. Did you say
he used to list every one of them, Jayhawk, all listing. And now he's making $200,000 a month with the same deal flow. So that's like my point there is that's how much fear costs.
Chad, question.
Yeah.
Because I heard you talking about, I mean, I wrote down a couple of questions as you were talking to Jonathan. You were talking about owner financing. So pardon the ignorant question. How does that even work? Okay, actually, I'll just ask it that way and I'll see where you kind of take it.
In probate in California that's the question, right?
Yeah, or just in general, I mean, I feel like a hypocrite constantly talking to my clients, telling them, what are you doing with, for example, sometimes I have people calling me making a $10,000 a month rent payment or $15,000 a month rent payment. And I tell them, hey, Chad, if you're spending $15,000 a month, have you ever considered, acquiring a property because, you could build equity by paying 15 grand a month into, and acquire a $3 million property, right? Something along those lines, right? I'm saying that, but then I don't own. So for me, it's kind of like saying you go to the gym and you have someone who's not in shape telling you, hey, this is what you need to get in shape, right? So it's kind of like you kind of have a little bit of a challenge connecting and saying, okay, fine, I'll do it, right? Because it's kind of like lead by example, right? So I feel like I'm not doing it. And then I'm telling people, hey, what are you doing not doing this, right?
So I dealt with this too. Like I sold multi-million-dollar real estate and I didn't own any. And homeowners would come to, the ski resort or in Maui especially. They're like, well, which one do you own? And I'm like, I actually choose to live a very nimble lifestyle and I like to travel everywhere. So I don't want one vacation home in one place. And I'm telling you, I own my own, real estate now. I wish I didn't. Like, I wish I could rent the quality of home that I custom built. Like I would sell this son of a bitch in a heartbeat and rent it back from whoever bought it. I can't, like I don't like being a homeowner. So it's okay if you don't want to be a homeowner. Like it's different people have different motivations.
Yeah.
If you don't have kids and you don't need the same farmer's market and the same school system, maybe you want to know what it's like to live in there's LA's 5 different cities all wrapped into one. Like maybe you want to do 5 years here, 5 years there. Oftentimes it doesn't make sense to own a home for less than 3 years in almost any market. In markets like yours, it's probably like 10 years because it's very fee heavy and very tax heavy. So like my point is, don't like give yourself some grace. You're like, first, really be honest with yourself. Why do you rent? I'm guessing it's because you want to be more nimble and you don't know exactly what you want. So buying something because you feel like you should own something versus because you truly are clear on what you want are two very different things.
Mhm.
I talked more buyers into becoming renters than I did into becoming buyers, like buyer leads. When I was in brokerage, I would ask my first, I charged them $400. They had to bring a $400 check to sit down and talk with me. Most of them, I slid the check back across the table and said, I'll help you, I'll send you some rental listings. And they probably went and bought a house from another realtor, but I didn't, in good conscience, wasn't going to sell a house to somebody that said they needed it for 2 years, like before they, moved to a different state after they finished residency, because I knew they were going to lose money. Like if you account for all the costs, they were going to lose money. Now in a rapidly rising market, which is dangerous, betting on appreciation. So give yourself some grace there. Like remember why you're renting.
Mhm.
But other people, they like some people will pay 15,000 in rent just to get into a school system.
Sure.
That's so anyway, understanding the buyer's motivation. But back to owner financing. So, and we'll take it specifically in probate because it's more complicated. Like
Yeah.
if you want to owner finance a house that's currently in probate,
Mhm.
my first suggestion would be petition the court for full authority in California.
Okay.
So you're not dealing with the bullshit of overbids and all the complications of limited authority. So let's assume you can get full authority. Then then they can actually quit claim, the estate can quit claim the house to the heirs. Then you do your deal with the heirs. So you're going to sign a purchase agreement with X amount down, X percent interest over X number of years and amortized over X years.
Mhm.
And oftentimes like they get a step up basis. So there's not a lot of tax savings in a probate deal. Because like in a non-probate deal, you can oftentimes say, well, listen, you've got $120,000 in capital gains in your equity. If we keep that under $40,000 a year, do you know what the tax percentage is on 40,000 or $39,999 in capital gains? 0. So if I can spread your $120,000 out and keep your total capital gains under 40,000 a year, you can enjoy this equity and not pay taxes on it. So would you rather make more money over time or do you want less money right now?
I like that.
And you can show them like in a non-probate deal. In a probate deal, they're going to get step up. Well, actually, California took step up basis away, didn't they? So you can like, let's say they have, $400,000 in equity in a probate property. You can give them a down payment that makes them feel comfortable. Sometimes you don't even have to. And then you can amortize it to where your debt service payments stay under $39,999 and flatten out their taxes. So would you, if you guys could over 10 years get to keep all of the money all the equity that your mom and dad worked so hard for, would you rather do that? Or would you rather go ahead and carve off 20% and hand to the US government and the rest to LA County? So you can take the tax route. Now, as far as how to structure it, it's just simply like in the states I've done business in, you have a note and a deed of trust, but you'll record, you'll record an instrument, whatever that's called in your county, you'll record that instrument against the title. And one of the things I always say to people, I'm like, well, you own this house now. You're pretty comfortable with that, right? Like, not that, like, okay. So worst case scenario, you get a bunch of my money. I fix the house up and you still own the house. You're already comfortable owning. And that alleviates, like, it just shows, like, it kind of paints the picture for them. Oh yeah. Okay. I never thought of it that way. Like what we're perceiving as risk, we already have. It's kind of like, fear is usually irrational because you're afraid of what you already don't have.
Mhm.
And that's so they're the people's biggest concern is, well, what if you stop paying? And it's like, well, if I stop paying, you're right back where you are now, but with more of my money. So, so it's pretty simple. I mean, I do them on standard contracts. I just use an MLS contract.
Okay.
And on financing, I just select other. Actually, there's in Virginia, I don't like our Roanoke contract. The state of Virginia contract has a special, a whole block for owner financing terms, but I usually end up putting it in additional terms just so the attorney can write the note. But I'll just, in additional terms, I'll say, purchaser and seller agree to X dollars or X%, or whatever you negotiate owner financing. Seller will buyer depends. Sometimes it's usually buyer will pay for the legal work, and here below are the basic terms. And you say X amount, X sale price is already in the contract, but X amount down, X% interest over X number of years, and the amortization. And sometimes, like I've done them, where it's like it's amortized over 30 years, but it balloons at 5 years. So we can flatten out their capital gains in those first few years. They can take that tax free, and then when I refinance, they get their bump and get their basis.
Okay.
And we're coming into a damn good environment for this right now. Now you can wholesale those too. Like you can go negotiate the terms and get it under contract and then go sell your position in it. I don't like that. A lot of coaches will teach that, but to me, that's putting someone else in control of my reputation and someone else in control of possible legal liability. I'm not going to do that. Because if I, it's like a wedge or a sandwich deal. But if I do that and the buyer defaults, then I've got to step back in and deal with the mess, and it's my ass on the line for making the payments, right? So if they destroy the property, or so I don't like the sandwich deals. You can make a ton of money doing it, but you can also leave a hell of a trail of liability behind you that lasts years. I mean, even with something as simple as a lease option, you got usually 2 to 3 year option. Well, you got 2 to 3 years to think about. Are they doing what they promised? Are they doing what I promised? Really, is what you're asking yourself. So, but in this environment, like it hasn't happened yet. Like this, from a macro standpoint, I'm extremely bearish on the overall global economy. But there's $6 trillion was a ton of money that got injected, and a lot of people invested it and did pretty well on the upper end. But we're seeing it in some markets. Florida's starting to show. Austin for sure is already showing this. You've got, I if you remember way back when COVID first started, I said what we can expect is there will be a period that we'll call winter, where sellers are clinging to theoretical equity and buyers are on the sidelines. And we see that happening now. Buyers have been priced out and they're just they're exhausted. So we've got, I know friends who $200,000 underwater, told them not to buy a house, but they did. And now they're landlords. But there's going to be in the millions of people who are faced with, do I just let this thing go? Do I pay the bank to take it? Do I sell it and then pay the difference? Do I become a landlord, or do I stay here and not take that job opportunity, or lose my job and have to find another one here? That's going to be happening everywhere. And this is where owner financing can really kind of save the market, because instead of recording all these low foreclosure prices, you can step in and pay market price. That's the thing. With it's price or terms, pick one. You can make a hell of a deal out of an overpriced home. If you let's say the house retail cash offer might be $500,000. I'll pay $1 million for the same damn house. You're just going to amortize it over 40 years at 0% interest with no money down. I'll give you $1 million.
Yeah, just okay in payments.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So
I
you
just
can
wanted to-
make make the market move, when it does freeze, when you're at a stalemate,
Uh-huh.
you can make the market move with these types of deals.
Mhm.
And I've even done these where I didn't even own the house. I didn't buy it. I would sign an option to lease option, and then I would go sign a lease option with a tenant buyer, bring it back to the seller and assign the whole damn package back to him, and take the option fee as a consulting fee through my investment company. And I did 4%, because most of those people are going to end up with FHA loans, which at the time was 3.5%. So I said, that was how I qualified my buyers. I said, you want to be a homeowner, right? Yeah. Well, tell me why. Reason ABCD. Okay, well, the first thing we have to talk about is you need 4% down. No, and they would always be like, what? I'm like, well, if you can't save 4%, then I'm going to tell you, you shouldn't be buying a house. You're responsible enough to own a damn house.
Sure.
And so then they would be like, well, I can. And it would empower them to go start saving and stop spending all. And people would come back so proud. They're like, I got it. And sometimes they would print a damn cashier's check and literally bring it to me before we even had a house. I'm like, well, calm down, put that back in the bank. But that's what I would do. The 4% would actually come to me as a consulting fee.
Mhm.
I made, even in Roanoke, we had a median price of, 150, 140, $140,000 across the market at that time.
Mhm.
But it was a hell of a lot easier than a real estate, like a brokerage commission. That could close them. Like it was a faster way to generate cash than wholesaling. So I would go find a for rent by owner that was nice in a nice neighborhood, and it was rented, but no furniture in it. And, the yard looked kind of crappy. And I'm like, somebody had a job transfer, or somebody had another kid and they didn't fit in the house anymore, or a kid got old enough that needed to be in a different school system. But there's a house sitting there, and now we have tools. Like back then I didn't have prop stream, but now you can just jump on prop stream, look up the note, see what they owe. Like, almost how to put the deal together before you call. And then, reach out and offer, say, listen, I would think I want this house right now. My wife and I, we've been renting. And you can do it under a lease option for yourself, or you can say, looks like you guys really want to be landlords, or do you feel like you have to be? And then you'll hear the stories, and you're like, well, if I could take that away and put a really, really good family in the home and get you a premium price, so you don't have to bring any money to the table, but it might take me 2 years. Would you want to meet for 30 minutes and have me show you how I'm not full of shit? And that's usually how I started them. We would meet at the house the next day, and I would say, okay, this is pretty complicated, but I'm going to try to simplify it.
Mhm.
I know how to, I've built a team of lenders, credit repair professionals, and, systems and relationships. I know what it takes to get a homeowner to a point where they can buy a home. So what we've done is we actually market to people who are renting, who would like to own, but banks are telling them they can't. Other realtors bring us their clients that they can't get. Instead of saying, sorry, go rent, other realtors know that they can rely on us to get paid. So what we'll do is you just simply sign this agreement with me, which will give me an equitable interest in the home. So we don't have to list it. You don't have to pay my broker a bunch of commissions. So as a real estate professional, not as a realtor, no agency relationship exists. I'll sign this option to lease option, which will allow me to go out and have these conversations with buyers. Once I find one, I'll bring you a full loan application. I'll show you all the red flags, all the reasons that they can't buy a home right now. So full transparency. And if you feel good about it, then we'll get them to sign the lease with option to purchase, and I'll exercise my option, and then we'll sign that back to you. And they're like, well, why would you do this? I'm like, all I ask for is I'm going to ask them to save 4%. And I want that up front for putting this together. And then that 4%, you're going to give back to them on the end of this. You're going to give them credit on the settlement statement if they do what they promise. So you're paying nothing now. And by the way, that refrigerator that you're worried about, what if it breaks when a tenant's here? It's not yours anymore. We're going to make them responsible for all repairs, maintenance, taxes. It's just like a triple net lease at this point. So this house is no longer a problem of yours. You'll sell for a premium price regardless of what happens in the market. We've got provisions in here that if it doesn't appraise, we just extend the lease option period until it will. And I had one close last February. A title company out of Roanoke called me. The very first lease option I ever did in 2012, it closed February of 22. And I was like, what? I mean, I knew the name as soon as she said it. I'm like, are you kidding me? But the seller and the tenant buyer just wrote out my extension clauses for, what was it? It was 9 years, and it was a 24-month option. But I left provisions in there where they could extend the deal out. And that's the longest one I've ever seen, but Jason closed in 9 years. So those are really good deals that I used it to generate cash. If I saw a house I wanted to buy, I could go do 2 lease options, come up with, 15 grand, and then use that as a down payment on a house that I wanted to own or finance. So when you see a rental house sitting, which isn't real common these days, back then it was like in 2012, 13, these were a dime a dozen. Like it was just like foraging for berries. You just kind of walk outside and look and like, oh, there's one. I'll go pick it. It's a little harder now, but what you're going to find here pretty soon is the people who are the residents that are living in the houses. A lot of people are stuck. So they, Americans buy payment, not price. And like 95% of people, and they just got so payment focused with, false interest rates that put them into the $400,000 and $500,000 houses. Well, now that same payment that they're shopping with will get them a $325,000 house, but they're taking their champagne taste and going shopping with a beer budget. And now they're like, shit, we're stuck because they had another kid. They need a bigger house and they can't. They're literally stuck in the house they have. So if you can show people how to, if you can show them how, if you guys, like if you sell your house to me subject to that loan staying in place, then I will finance, I'll finance your purchase of a home, or I'll get you financing for a home at 3%. So then you go out, you find a seller who's clinging to yesterday's price, and you say, I know you're probably disappointed with what you're hearing from other real estate professionals, but I'm going to tell you, I can get you that price. Can I come over tomorrow and we'll sit down and I'll show you how? And you just say, listen, we're going to, we'll get you the $1 million. I know that the last realtor here said 800 because the market's changed. We'll get you the $1 million, but you're going to have to work on terms, because right now the buyers can't afford $1 million. What they can afford is a payment at a low rate. So we'll negotiate a 20% down, like whatever we can give them on the acquisition, the sub 2 acquisition of their home. We'll take, let's just say it's 20% that we give them. And then we take the home sub 2, and then they take that 20%, and that's the down payment on an owner finance deal. So we acquired a home with a 3% interest rate, which is going to cash flow like crazy in most places. And then we created a buyer. We broke them out of the trap they built, and they don't know enough to do this. So we can do, as an investor, we create a buyer. And with the buyer, you'd probably want to do that on license. So you actually get the sales commission on that one. So that's the way creative financing kind of break a market loose and make it move. And you're going to see tons of those opportunities. Like those, like I said, people shopping with payments has created a big problem. Like there's no way that real estate's actually worth the prices we drove it to with those loans. But those damn loans are valuable, and take everyone you can get sub 2. Like these people who are stuck, like you see homes sitting on the market with no price reductions, that means they're right up against their note. And expired listings are beautiful in a time like that. Just call the expired and say, I'm sure you're tired of getting these calls. This one's different. I'd like to pay you whatever price you want for the house, but I want to talk to you face to face. Can we meet tomorrow? And the same way I did with short sales, like I wouldn't even bother talking much on most of them. I would try first. I'm like, listen, I have something to talk to you about. I know you're in default. Don't be embarrassed. This is a different conversation. Can we just meet and talk about it in person? Because I need your family to trust me. And they would be like, well, who are you? I'm like, I'm the guy that's trying to help you. Can we meet tomorrow? Like we can pick a neutral place, coffee shop, whatever, and then go over to the house if it makes you more comfortable. And they would come almost every time. Like I got just about everyone that I called. Jonathan, you had a question. I saw your hand was up a minute ago.
Yeah, I was wanting to say, man, some of this I remember you went over a few years ago. You had a whole training on different ways to put the deal together.
Yeah.
And I love that. What you're saying now, I see elements of that before you got to the subject too, as far as creating that cash by by using an option. Well, with was it an option, at least with an option to purchase. So one of my superpowers, Chad, is that I'm a visual learner. Is there any chance by any way in any future trainings that we can maybe draw this out so I can follow it along? Because I'm following along. When I hear things, I'm picturing it in my head, and probably it's just me, nobody else. But that's just one of my
Right there with you,
superpowers.
John. Right there with you, John. I'm super visual. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
Let
No,
me, I'm gonna grab the link too. This is, I think, session 4. Yeah. So I'll drop this link. This is still over on the All the Leads channel, but this link in the chat was session 4 of that Shift Happens series that I did when COVID began. That's the only thing that I have. We actually, McKenna has made a really nice deck for creative financing, and I haven't taken the time to record the course. We need to do that. That's probably our next course for this reason so I've got 2 outlined. One will be refi, real estate finance. So we're going to go like one of the other things, guys, like this is not an investor conversation, but well, it kind of is. If you're trying to sell your own houses, like in Roanoke, I saw rates. I saw the Fed meeting notes, and I'm like, shit, I got to get down there and sell that house. So I ran down there, put the house on the market, called for offers, 4 days. And I knew I was creating my own urgency. I kind of screwed up. I had like 250 people through a house in 2 days. It was damn insane. I mean, it was in Cave Spring, like the school district and the working professionals neighborhood. And I created a shit show if you've ever seen one. But we drove the price, but the buyer who ultimately won, who got it, she was kind of milling around, didn't have an agent with her. And I went over to talk to her. She was in residency, and she said, I don't really know why I'm here. All the realtors I've talked to said I can't buy. The lenders say I can't buy. I'm like, interesting. Why do they say that? She was a young girl. And she's like, well, I don't really have a job. I have an offer letter from Carillion. I'm in residency to be a doctor. And I'm like, oh, what's your credit score? Like, are you above a 750? Well, yeah. And I'm like, you're financeable. Buy this house. She's like, what do you mean? They all said I can't. And I'm like, call this person, go over there, and then come back with a letter. Like, bring me a pre-qual letter, and this will be your house. And I started to sell that vision. She outbid everyone else by $26,000. That was a $26,000 conversation, because I knew that First Citizens Bank had a special community loan program that if you have over a 750 credit score and you have an employment contract in the healthcare industry, they'll count that as employment history. So she went 30 minutes later, came back with a pre-qual letter and wrote the high offer with an escalation clause. And it was a $26,000 conversation on my own house. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to teach basic finance. Like, you need to be out in the community. You need to be meeting with your credit unions. You need to be meeting with community banks. You need to understand the residential side versus the commercial side, what their underwriting overlays are. The better you understand financing in general, the better you can put these deals together. And when you're selling your own properties, when the buyer goes to back out or won't come past a certain number, be like, listen, why are you fucking around with Wells Fargo or Quicken? Let's go over here to the community bank. They're all portfolio loans. What that means is they don't sell the paper on the secondary market, so they'll look you in the eye and make a loan work for you. But those are typically credit unions or banks under $1 billion in assets. A lot of times under $500 million in assets are the better ones to work with. But the course is going to start there and then go all the way through the kind of the stuff we've been talking about, the sexier creative financing kind of stuff. But I'll bet you I've made, I don't know, no less than $300,000 just because I understood all the financing, conventional financing around me in Roanoke. I so many buyers came to me saying, hey, can we see that house? And anyway, there's David Pinnell. But I've had so many people who said, we can't buy. We're just, we're trying to figure out what neighborhood we want. We'll buy in a couple of years. And I turned them into buyers within days. That you guys heard in Probate Mastery, I told the story about Pam. And on that house alone, I took 3 out of the 4 tenant buyer applicants and turned them into conventional buyers within 30 days. That one house yielded 4 closings inside of a 30-day window. And I can't remember how much I made off of it in the whole, but I took the lease option fee off the subject house, and then I sold 3 other houses, which probably wasn't $500,000 for all 3 of them, but it was a decent week. And those were the first 3 buyers I ever represented. Well, residential buyers. I'd represented, just luxury buyers, but first house buyers. So that's what I'm going to try to do, is build the foundation with, like, let's backfill your knowledge on conventional financing, because most people don't have a great handle on conventional. Like, for example, a 5-1, like a 5-1 arm is actually a really good product for the right buyer. And most realtors will always steer their buyers away from adjustable rate mortgages, like, especially in this kind of environment. But if it's someone who's like, hey, we're just getting a starter home, we know we're going to sell this within 3 years. What the hell does it matter what the rate is on a 30-year fixed? They're never going to go full term on the loan. So if we can save, we can put them into a saving mindset, get them the lowest rate possible with a 5-1 arm. We know we're selling the damn thing. They're not going to live here forever. It's just until their kid graduates college, and then they're selling the house and he's going to move up or something. So understanding all of the conventional loan products is where you should start. Then we'll move into things like creative financing. Like, we'll go into contract for deed, wrap, sub-2, zero interest owner financing. I think I did 7 different strategies that will work on probate deals when I did the link that I dropped in the chat. I think there's 7 different ones in there that we kind of walk through, but that's probably later this year. We'll have, I think the course is probably called Refi. The other course that I'm waiting to produce is foreclosure, as a foreclosure course. And that is basically what I did in 12, 13, 14, 15, where you approach the homeowner with a simple question of, listen, I'm not going to bring up, you know why I'm calling. I just have one question. Would you like to stay in your home, or would you like to start a new chapter? And from there, you steer them to the options, starting with, bringing the loan current. Okay, well, that's not going to happen. Loan modification, which we don't have the rules this time. Then short sale, well, renting it out, then short sale, then owner finance sale, or cash sale. You just lay out the options for them. And most everyone will say they want to save the home. What they'll realize is they're going to need to short sell it or owner finance it to you, and you bring it current and ride it out. So that'll be the next one, but it's too soon to tell what's going to happen, what the government intervention will be, the government reaction to it. But we're probably going to see something like HARP or HAMP again, maybe a new version like HAMP or HARP 2. I don't know, but eventually we'll see that, and I'll make that course whenever we're ready to react to it. Certainly taking a lot longer than I expected. Dave, I told you your secret, man. I thought maybe you'd told them.
About what?
He's like, oh shit, which one?
Yeah.
About how well your March went.
Yeah, the first quarter. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first quarter was amazing.
What's the second quarter gonna be like?
We got 2 under contract right now, so it's kind of in that eye of the hurricane right now. We don't know yet, because these cash appointments come out of nowhere. But I just had an executor call me 2 days ago in the city that we like to buy in, and she said that I've seen all your YouTube videos, and I trust your opinion. I was like, "Are you gonna have any other investors come out?" She said no. So it's really great.
Yeah. I just saw.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good year.
I just looked at the list. Glenn is here. We haven't run into your spot yet. We still have a few minutes. Hey, Glenn Twiddle.
Yeah, no, I'm just listening, man, trying to learn, man.
What are you buying down under?
Man, at the moment, we've just coming out of COVID. I haven't bought, we bought one new residential house actually, but yeah, nothing much crazy, man. Although I was just listening to what your when you used a lot of those terms describing the different sorts of strategies and tactics and loans, and man, that just did my head in. So one thing that I was sort of most real estate
I need a damn
agents,
whiteboard.
Oh, dude, the complexity of some of those products you described, and assuming your guys, and I'm assuming your guys can actually learn those products and have competence of those products in all their complexities. Most real estate agents, I dumb down a lot of what I train because most real estate agents could never keep up with what you just said. So I hope that means that your guys they're just next level thinkers. They're smarter and they're able to keep up with that complexity because that is not simple stuff you talked about. Because I'm telling you, I didn't understand any of it.
Yeah, well, no, it's a pretty neat community we've put together here. Like it's definitely the top of, I'd say everybody within the top 10% as far as ability.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're dragging their feet like Jayhawk, not buying houses when they should be.
What?
Next week, man, 2 under contract. I'm gonna put you against Pinnell. David, you got to hold him accountable. He's got 2 on the table. One's a lakefront in Texas, and the other's a house. He's gonna buy them both.
Are you still mason with that lake house, Jayhawk?
Oh, this is a different one.
Lake lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot. Yeah, this is actually right around the corner from that house that was
write
sold.
the contract, man. Write the contract. Shit. I don't leave without writing a contract. I don't leave without. I did yesterday. I feel bad about it. So there's like a 50% chance I won't get it, but I do not like to leave an appointment without getting them to sign something, some commitment.
Yep, I agree.
What's the
Um,
primary
Glenn,
method
I
of
don't-
winning in your world, guys? What's the are you guys sort of making more dough, and your primary reason to be in this in Chad's group, in your group, Chad? Is it buying houses and building a portfolio of your own, or is it helping other people and getting a commission and paid based on the help of other people who need it?
Yes.
And it
It started. Let me answer that for Glenn. It started for the commission check. But when you go on appointments and they don't want to hire you because they don't want to pay 6%, but they'll take a 40% discount if you write them a cash offer, and you're leaving, you know that you're leaving that appointment. They don't want to hire a realtor because the house is shitty or it needs a lot of work. Or I was giving money to let people borrow money to do the work. I never lost anything, but it's very risky. You just get to the point where you're like, damn, I'll just make you cash offer and I'll do it all. And I've had no issue, and it's excelled my financial position in the last 5 years more than it ever has as a realtor.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Most people in this community, Glenn, will they're in brokerage and some capacity, broker agent, and they'll come in just looking for opportunities to list. If I have it my way, every broker becomes a buyer, and every investor becomes a licensee, because otherwise you're leaving millions of dollars on the table over a 20, 30 year career. So like David has he's flipped Pareto's principle. Like he was 80-20 brokerage. Now he's 80-20 investor.
Yep.
And he's working a hell of a lot less than he was doing all those the brokerage deals. And I learned my lesson too. Like I built myself up to, 100 and I think I did 104 deals solo in my 3rd year. And I'm like, this is insane. Like when you look at the actual net margin off of it, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Because there's not many tax advantages for, just for being a brokerage professional. A lot of it gets eaten.
Yep.
And I'm like, God almighty, my return I could start with a 30% return just by wiping out these taxes. Like that's 30% right there. And then your gains in equity. So we try to cross train. I attempt to cross train everybody. Most of the people who have jumped up to the, this level are open to that. It's everybody has a choice. I'm not going to bitch at people. Well, I'll jokingly kick Jayhawk in the ass and tell him to go get stuff under contract. But just because I know when I actually broke through my fear, I mean, it's the difference in making a $3,000 or $4,000 commission versus a $30,000 or $40,000 check. It's literally 10x.
Yeah, my biggest wholesale fee this year is $57,000.
Seriously?
Wow, man. So when you say wholesale fee, that's what you net after you flip, Dave?
No, I sold the paper to another investor. I bought the house at a certain price and I just sold the paper.
Right, got it.
It's my superpower, so it's a little bit strange for me to tell people. I feel completely more comfortable going in and asking people what they want for a property Cause I went in for a lot of years trying to list the property or fix it up for them. And then some little thing along the way would piss them off. Or someone in the team, not my team, the title company, the attorneys, somebody would do something wrong that makes me look bad.
Mm.
So it's just easier for me to close on in 7 to 14 days, sell it to one of my investors that I've picked up over the years. And it's the stars have to align, but you got to get you. I mean, everybody in the US needs to be buying houses if they can, ugly houses, and selling them.
That makes sense, man. I mean, because I'm even thinking, because I've still got a lot of agents that come to me and they're still part of the prospecting machine. They're, the equivalent of, say, a Mike Ferry in your world. I believe Mike Ferry is still teaching pound out the calls, whereas I believe Tom Ferry sort of does it more my style, marketing so that they come to you kind of thing. So I still get the cold calling guys come to me. And, even as I hear what you're saying, it'd be a far easier cold call to say, hey, that's a bit of a dog of a house. Do you want to sell it to me? Than, hey, do you want to hire me as a real estate agent? It'd be a chalk and cheese, response, I would assume, from the consumer, where it's far easier, I would think, to say, hey, look, I'll buy it if you don't like the thing or whatever, So,
and it's easier getting the appointment set if you are a realtor broker and you go in on the appointment looking for a listing, but then you get there and you're like, man, this house, do you want to do the work or not? I could buy it from you, but I always ask permission to go into that realm.
Yep.
I always
Right.
ask permission, and then I ask them what they want for the house, and it's usually they have a price in mind. Say it's $100,000 per house. They will take $100,000 for that property when it's worth 250. And if you go in and act like you want the real estate listing, all they want is that 100,000. So now they're thinking they're going to get 85 if they have to pay a 6% commission. They're not going to tell you that number. But when you offer them 100 grand, they're like, "There's no fees in this, no tricks." And no, I'm buying it. I'm not going to change my price. It's amazing. It's changed. Having the best quarter of this last year, Chad, I also paid off the hard money note for this house.
Good.
So it's amazing. I was able to send them $53,000 to pay off the note. So it's freaking great.
Love it.
I love it, Glenn. And Glenn started my marketing mindset. If I have to give my real estate career it's Glenn Twiddle, Kevin Ward, and Chad. The three people that I think about when I do any marketing.
All bald guys.
Yeah, all bald guys.
That's the secret, Chad. That's the secret. Hey?
Yep.
I'm
We got
working on
better
mine.
things to do with our hormones than grow hair.